Okay. This video will be showing you how to use Beamer, which is an alternative to doing a PowerPoint presentation. It just creates another PDF for you, which is very much like Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay. So you don't need to install any new programs. You just use MikTeX and some kind of compiler like WinShell. And so let's go ahead and go back to what we had before. Let me just open those up. I think I put them in the desktop. So you want to make sure MikTeX is running, so just do that. And then down in the corner, there's that thing show up. Then the other one was WinShell, so should just be able to run it down here. Okay. So WinShell's kind of nice because it remembers the last document you were on. There's no star up in the name here, but if we were to change something, like make some space there, see how the star shows up? That means it's been changed and needs to be saved. And if I tried to close this, you know, it would do that. Now, just like I made, used another one as a template, since this is going to be it's not going to be an article, it's going to be Beamer. I'm just going to close this, and then it's going to say save changes because I made those two changes. Like if I undo those changes, if I Control Z, see how the star went away, and then I can just close it and it won't prompt me to save. Okay, so I'm going to open up a tech document that I use to make slides for my business calc class. Okay, so I taught business calc here. So I think the one I showed you earlier was this one. The only reason I'm opening this up is so that I have my preamble set up. So I'm going to leave this make title thing there. I'm just going to start wiping out stuff like this. And I'm actually going to keep /begin frame. I'll show you why in a sec. And I'm going to come down here and get everything else except for end frame. Get rid of all that. Delete. This is a good template. I just have to remember to change these things. But I'm going to save this as and go to my test folder and call it test 2. Okay. So now we're free to edit this. So I'm going to change the title. This is sort of the main title. Let's call it Learning Beamer. Okay. And our subtitle can be just the basics. That's weird. Wasn't typing anything. Okay, and then the author is Matthew Barco. And then this make title thing here, it started a frame, displayed the title information, then ended the frame. That's how Beamer works. Everything is done frame by frame, and you'll see what that means. Okay, so each frame can be given its own title. So I'm just going to call this first frame. Okay, and then you close it off. It's in braces. So we've already ended the frame. That, like I said before, I like to begin and end something so I don't forget, and then it'll compile. It's really irritating when you've done a bunch of work and then it won't compile and you gotta find where the little error is. So you gotta train yourself to not have these errors. Okay, that is one of the downsides to using LaTeX, is that sometimes it won't compile and then you get really frustrated. Okay, but they do show you where the error is down here. They'll show you what line of code it didn't like. So sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But all right, why don't we go ahead and use the information from what we did before, rather than just make something else up. So I'm going to open up test 1. The way the code works is virtually identical. So let's just use this stuff here. Okay, I don't really need that break right there because I just want my slide to have this information on it. So I'm going to copy it from here and just paste it in this frame. Okay. The double dollar sign still works in here. VSpace works. This kind of thing works. So that should compile at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we'll have a, well, let's do a second frame. Oh, and another thing you can do are pauses. Okay. So let me show you what a pause is going to do. Alright, so I'll put a pause there, and I'll put a pause here. Alright, and let's make another frame. And then give myself some space and end the frame. So this frame I'm going to call doing equations. Okay. So we might as well just use this code that we wrote. I think equation array should work fine in Beamer. It might not, but we'll see. Okay. So we have three frames. The first one is the title. The first actual frame is this, so we'll see 3 distinct frames. There's no need to put a pause anywhere in here, but you could, I think you can pause after each one, but that might not work because you're in equation array environment. Let's just see what this looks like. I'm going to compile PDF LaTeX. Okay, so it doesn't know what Beamer is, so I've got to install it. So when I said you didn't need to install anything else, I guess technically that wasn't true, but MikTeX will do that for you, which is nice. So hopefully this doesn't take too long. Apologize for these breaks in here like this. It's just because I'm using a new version of MikTeX I haven't used before, and I want you to see all the possible things that could happen. So here's another one. It doesn't know what that is. I don't even know what that is, but it's one of these packages I've tried to use here. Okay, there shouldn't be too many of these because a lot of them I already used, like multi-call I used in the other one. Units. This TXZ thing is, that package is what allowed me to make those, what do you call them? The pictures with the dots in the diagrams. Okay. Don't know what this stuff is. I'm hoping it knows what all of these are. If not, I'm going to have to eliminate the package that it doesn't know. Apologize for this, but it's part of what you have to do. You don't have to do this every time. Once the package is installed, you're good to go. Luckily I have a halfway decent internet connection here. These could take longer to do. Okay, it looks like it compiled. It has 2 warnings, but 0 errors, and it's going to tell you what the warnings were up here. It's saying that some font shape is not available. That doesn't mean much to me. Size substitutions with differences. Don't know what that means. But it's telling you the line number. So it had some problem with something there, but it wasn't an error, so it doesn't matter. It compiled it. It should look fine. So let's go to where that is. Okay, so now it's got more stuff in here, but we just made this. Okay, so there's our first slide, and you can use the arrow keys to move through like that. Okay, so that's basically what we've got. It looks pretty similar to the other stuff. It's just that you can tell that the font is different. You can change the font. Okay. So it says, here's the main title, Learning Beamer, author down there. Those should stay there in each slide. Okay, and you can have sections in these. Like on a more advanced slideshow, like if you were going to give a presentation in a class rather than just something simple for, you know, a lesson plan or something you teach with. Let me find a more advanced one. So I used a Combinatoric Example before, so I'm going to do that again. Let's see. That was in here. Okay. It's in here. So here's the tech. Alright, so I worked with Jim Kowalski and Yifan Zhang. And I think this one has sections in it. Let's just look at what the PDF looks like, and we'll see. I don't want that there. Yeah, it does, because of the bookmark thing just came up. So, it's got the main title here, authors down here, the date, authors, and this is the subtitle it shows there. Yeah, and you see up here how it says linear codes, so that's the section that we're in. Okay, so let's cycle through. Since we're in the section linear codes, it highlights it. Okay, so it looks like I wasn't using pausing in this. I just displayed all the data right away. Okay, so it gives you some kind of idea of what you can do. You know, it takes a little bit of research, like, to figure out what these things are called in terms of the code, but the internet is a fantastic resource. You just say, how do you do the union symbol in tech, and it'll tell you. Okay. So, yeah, this is how I do my presentations and all my lesson planning. It's very effective, I think. Can't think of any other projects I've done recently, but I think that should give you the idea of how it works. So, I mean, you can see what the code is, see if there's anything in here of interest. This enumerate environment is kind of neat. You know, you can create it's like an itemization list. You can use math mode inside the title of a slide. Okay. Okay. Oh, this emp thing is going to put it in italics. Okay. And just like I had vertical space, you can have horizontal space inside of a thing. And hfill is going to basically right align this thing, and that's the QED box. Okay. This here will change the size of your font, because sometimes you have a lot of stuff you want to stuff into one slide. So you're going to need to change that, and you can find the list of them, but script size is really small. The smallest one is called /tiny. If you had a really large amount of information you needed on one slide, you'd want to be in tiny. So I started off with a brace, and then it ends in a brace down there. It just means that everything's going to be in script size. So I think it goes tiny, and then script size, and then footnote size, then \small, and then then there's the normal font, so you wouldn't need to specify. Then you can go large / huge. I can't remember. I don't usually need to make them bigger, just smaller. Okay. So, yeah, just quickly looking through here, I'm not seeing much else that you would need to use. I never ended up importing graphics. Let me find one where I've used graphics. I know I did that a lot in my lesson plans. So let's go back to this, and I'll find one that has pictures in it. I just want to take a look at this to see if I have any. And you can scroll through these with the mouse wheel. A lot of the times I have pictures, but I didn't in that one. Let's go back to an earlier chapter. I'm sorry, I should have already known which one I was going to use, but it's kind of... Yeah, okay, that's a good way to see if I've done that, because I have the pictures in there. That's something good that came up. You need to make sure your pictures are in there. I use PNG images, but I think JPEG works. You don't have to really specify the file extension inside there, but you'll see that this one has pictures in it. See? That's an external image I imported in. And I can show you how I format those. Okay. So this is what it's going to look like. And you can see I've been using pause because they're coming up separately. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at what this code looks like. I'm going to keep this here just so we have that as a reference, but then I'm going to have on the other side the tech. Okay. Alright. Alright. So we don't really need this. We can make that smaller. Okay. So let's go to the top of this thing so we can see where we started. So it says business calculus down there. The subtitle only shows up on this first slide, and it's got the author there and there. And when you tell it to make title, it's going to put the date of when it compiled. Okay. So the first frame's title is definitions. Okay. And then it's got this image. So what I usually do is I find something on the internet, or I have a book, and there's a way you can take a screenshot out of a book, and so it's called DEF, like, because I knew it was going to be associated with definitions, I just called it DEF. So let's go back to this thing, and you can see that the DEF is there. It's got file extension PNG, but I didn't need to specify that in the tech code. All I needed to do was give it the name of the file. And this thing here is telling you, so in the PIC environment, that is something I invented. Okay, I created this command myself, because it's a lot easier than typing in \include graphics, height equals blah blah blah, because I use it so often that I know I only need two pieces of information. I need how big it is along one dimension. So what it's gonna do is maintain the aspect ratio of the picture. And in this one, I'm specifying the height. So the vertical height of the picture will be 4 centimeters. And then the second option is just the name of the file. Alright, so if you wanted to write it out, what I have done there is equivalent to me writing height equals 4 centimeters, and then this thing would be def. Both of those would do the exact same thing. but it's much easier just to do that. Okay, and I never used the other one, I just created it because in some cases you want to specify the horizontal rather than the vertical size. But it will maintain the aspect ratio of the photo. Okay, so what else is going on in this? Looks like it's doing some kind of enumeration thing, bulleted, and that's what this itemize environment does. It doesn't, you don't get to specify what kind of thing there, so when it's just going to make a little circle. So the next slide's called Relative Extrema, and it's got that stuff on it. So it shows you that image called RE for Relative Extrema. I just called it that. And then you have little thing. You have what you want to state with. You end it with the double backslashes and how much space you want. Put a pause in between. That's why over here they show up like that. And then if you keep going, it's going to go to Absolute Extrema. Okay. So I think you pretty much get the idea of how I do this. I mean, it's just all I have on that one or two images, and I'm using this multi-calls environment because it's basically splitting the display image into two separate columns, and it will fill one column up, and then it will move over and start filling the other one up as if it were two pages. So multi-call is quite useful for me. Okay, so that's what I did here. I used itemize again, and see how 3 of the items got put in one column from the multi-calls. And that's another one you have to close off. Okay, it's an environment that needs to be closed off, and then the other 3 bullet points went over here. So it's really neat. Okay, so I guess I will conclude this because this is kind of dragging on, but I think now you would be able to do this. Alright, and if you need templates, I would be perfectly willing to supply them to you. Just email me. Okay, it's barco1ml@cmish.edu. Thanks for watching.